Listening to my colleagues, the Democrats on the other side of the aisle, complain and whine and defend illegal aliens that break the law the minute they cross our border is pathetic. The American people are so sick and tired of it. They cannot believe what our country has gone through. And it is enough. It is absolutely enough. But they will go on to defend anyone that is not American because of their America Last policies.
The bill blatantly violates due process. I mean, these are literally being allegations and charges, not actual convictions. Y'all act like if somebody's undocumented, they can't be deported. They can. As a former immigration attorney, I know that for a fact. You're making this up so you can literally allow people to be profiled and discriminated against. Blame them for the cost of eggs? Is that what we're doing here? We're blaming them because you guys can't get corporate greed on a side that is a disease that is killing our economy? People can't afford housing. You think it's because of our immigrant neighbors?
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and Marge, the train wreck Greene, is back on her soapbox, shouting nonsense like it's gospel, and this time she's using the tragic murder of Laken Riley as her latest prop. It's despicable, it's manipulative, and it's everything you'd expect from someone so invested in spewing nothing but hate.
You talk about tax dollars used. Our tax dollars should be used defending Americans. And you want to talk about spending a lot of money? Spending a lot of money should happen for American causes, American purposes, and American security. Laken Riley is a young woman who should be living her American dream, and she had the right to do it. But people that come across our border illegally are not Americans, and they do not have rights here. And that is exactly why anytime they break a law, anytime they cross into our country, they should be rounded up and shipped out as fast as possible. And if we need to build more prisons, then we'll do it.
Laken Riley's death was an absolute tragedy. A young nursing student life was cut short in a way no family should ever have to endure. But what does Marge do with this heartbreaking story? She turns it into a political weapon, using her name to justify a xenophobic, unconstitutional piece of legislation that has nothing to do with justice and everything to do with fear-mongering. This is the Laken Riley Act, a bill that does nothing to honor the victim, but everything to erode due process and divide communities. Rashida Tlaib sees it for what it is, and she's not holding back.
So shameful that the first bill of the new Congress will put a target on the back of millions of our neighbors that work so hard, that build up our communities. It is also going to increase militarization of our neighborhoods. As somebody that grew up in Southwest Detroit, where you'll find 20 different ethnicities, people from all over the world came together, and you should see how beautifully diverse it is, but how they built up communities and neighborhoods. They're an integral part of our neighborhood. And one of the things that I have been seeing over and over again on social media already, Mr. Chair, is literally militarization of Border Patrol, officials everywhere, just people scared and petrified because that's what's exactly happening, because this promotes racial profiling.
She's absolutely right. This bill doesn't just target undocumented immigrants. It targets entire communities. It creates a culture of fear where neighbors turn on neighbors, where families are ripped apart, where diversity is treated as a threat. Rashida called it out for what it is. This promotes racial profiling. It blatantly violates due process, and that's exactly what this bill does. It gives law enforcement free rein to target people based on their skin color, their accent, or their last name. It's not about justice. It's about power. It's about creating a system where Marge and her buddies get to decide who belongs and who doesn't. And let me tell you, that's not America. That's not the country that we are all supposed to be. And Rashida didn't stop there. She called out the hypocrisy at the heart of this bill.
If you cared truly about fixing our immigration system, you'd go fix it so that U.S. citizens married to undocumented spouses can actually adjust their status, where we have mixed statuses because for 30 years we've ignored and vilified immigrants. Enough is enough. It will separate families. It would lead again to continued discrimination. It's shameful that my colleagues are giving in to racist fear-mongering at the first opportunity to pass legislation to scapegoat our immigrant neighbors and fuel hate in our communities. I know what's going to happen. It won't just be undocumented. It'll be people like my mother who will get stopped and profiled. She have to carry her U.S. passport around? Are we asking people now to have documentation? That's what you want to turn our neighborhoods into, is militarization?
I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
The gentlelady is recognized.
I just ask all of you to truly understand what this will do to our communities. I urge our colleagues to please vote no on this divisive bill. And it's so important to understand what you're going to turn our communities and our neighborhoods into. We can't allow that to continue to happen. With that, I yield.
This bill isn't about fixing the system. It's about weaponizing it. It's about creating a system where an accusation is enough to ruin someone's life. No evidence, no trial, just suspicion. Is that the kind of country that we want to live in? Because that's where this bill is taking us. And Marge's so-called Christian values that she loves to wrap herself up in, the Bible when it suits her, yeah. Let me tell you, there's nothing Christian about this bill. Jesus didn't say, love thy neighbor unless they're undocumented. He didn't say, blessed are the snitches, but that's what Marge is preaching. She's turned faith into a weapon, using it to justify cruelty and discrimination. It's disgusting, and it's a betrayal of everything true faith stands for. What Marge had to say was idiotic. Democrats on the other side of the aisle complain and whine and defend illegal aliens that break the law the minute they cross the border. She paints a picture of Democrats bending over backwards, defending criminals, and it's an absolute lie. But here's the reality she's conveniently leaving out. Crossing the border without documentation isn't even a criminal offense in most cases. It's a civil matter. But nuance doesn't play well with Marge's base. She doesn't want facts. She wants fear. She wants anger. She wants her followers foaming at the mouth with rage over a made-up problem. And then there's her next gem. The American people are so sick and tired of it. Well, she's right about one thing. We're sick and tired, but not of asylum seekers. We're sick of her lies. We're sick of her divisive, hateful rhetoric that scapegoats vulnerable communities while letting the real culprits off the hook. Housing prices? Immigrants. Inflation? Immigrants. The price of eggs? Immigrants. That's the narrative Marge is selling. But let me tell you who's really to blame. Corporate greed, stagnant wages, and the billionaire donors Marge and her party are so eager to please. And then she has the audacity to talk about spending. Spending a lot of money should happen for American causes, American purposes, and American security. Really, Marge? Every time Democrats propose spending money on health care, affordable housing, or education, things that actually help Americans, it's your party that screams socialism and then votes the bill down. Your party just eliminated a $35 insulin cap, leaving millions of Americans struggling to afford life-saving medicine. You're talking about cutting Social Security, slashing funding for cancer research, and gutting education programs. And now you want to lecture us about spending money on American causes? Spare us. This isn't about spending wisely. It's about weaponizing budgets to punish the people that you don't like. And then we have the bill itself. Jamie Raskin summed it up perfectly. The Laken-Riley Act shifts the law from detaining and deporting people convicted of serious crimes to detaining and deporting people based on mere accusations. Let that sink in. No trial, no conviction, just an accusation. That's all it takes. You don't need evidence. You don't need proof. Someone just has to point a finger, and that's it. Your life is turned upside down. That's not justice, that's authoritarianism. That's how dictatorships operate. This bill erodes due process and replaces it with fear, suspicion, and paranoia. And it's not just undocumented immigrants who are at risk. Today, it's them. Tomorrow, it's journalists, activists, political opponents, anyone who dares to speak out against people like Marge the Trainwreck Greene. This is how it starts, folks. They create a system where your rights can be taken away with a whisper, where suspicion is all it takes to destroy a life. And if you think it stops there, you haven't been paying attention. This bill isn't about protecting Americans. It's about dividing us. It's about creating an us versus them narrative that keeps Marge's base angry, afraid, and distracted. And it's working. Look at people like Lauren Boebert, who turned a bathroom trip into a full-blown witch hunt because she thought she saw a transgender person. That's the kind of paranoia this rhetoric creates. It's the same paranoia that led to January the 6th. It's the same paranoia that keeps Marge's base undereducated and angry. And now they want to dismantle the Department of Education because they don't want people to think critically. They want people who follow orders, not people who ask questions. This bill is un-American. It flies in the face of everything we stand for. Justice, fairness, compassion. Rashida Tlaib said it best. Enough is enough. It will separate families and lead to continued discrimination. This bill doesn't make us safer. It doesn't make us stronger. It tears us apart. And if we let it pass, what's next? Who's next? Because it won't stop here. It never does. Rashida Tlaib and Jamie Raskin are fighting back. They're standing up for justice, fairness, and humanity. They're calling out the lies, the hate, and the hypocrisy. And they're showing us what real leadership looks like. It's time we stand with them. It's time we reject this bill. It's time we reject Marge the Trainwreck Greene's hateful agenda. And it's time we fight for a future where justice, compassion, and fairness aren't just words. They're the foundation of who we are. Enough is enough, and that's a fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.